Welcome to the show, everybody. This is the Farsi Show, presented by MyBookie, mybookie.ag, and it is lovely to have you along for the ride. Back from a little vacation, little quick weekend trip to Knoxville, Tennessee. Visit my nephew, my full disclosure, my wife's nephew, but great kid. We had a great time. I got to tell you, I made dinner. He's in a frat, so he had like 15 of his frat buddies over, and I made some meatballs. When in Rome, Knoxville, Tennessee, make some meatballs. And let me tell you this: for the people that think they've lost all hope in the younger generation, these boys, these young men, okay, could not have been kinder. Could not have been. Not that I was doing it to be appreciated. I thought it'd be a nice thing to do, and just saying, they were extremely appreciative. Thank you so much, sir. I got sirred a number of times. It was heartwarming, is what it was. We had a very nice dinner, very nice time. We saw the sights of Knoxville, Tennessee. Enjoyed the festivities that was Knoxville, Tennessee. And one kid came up to me, and this is hilarious because Jim Jackson, play-by-play voice of the Flyers, friend of mine, friend of the show, he won't stop telling me, and it's fine, that I look like Nick Foligno, who I believe is now the captain of the Chicago Blackhawks, if I'm not mistaken. The long-time hockey veteran Nick Foligno. He has told me this for years. He has even dropped this on a broadcast, on a Flyers broadcast. Nick Foligno, the doppelganger of Mark Farzetta, comes into the zone with the puck, something like that. So anyway, I'm sitting at one of the bars down there in Knoxville, and I'm with my wife and the family and all that stuff. It was nice. And a little Toots and Leo were not there. And a little inappropriate if that was the case. And this kid, young man, worth pointing out that he's wearing a Britney Spears "Hit Me Baby One More Time" t-shirt, comes walking up to me with a big smile on his face. And I just kind of noticed it. I'm like, maybe he's looking at somebody else. And he goes, excuse me, are you Nick Foligno? And I immediately start laughing very hard. And I said, actually, it's funny. I got a buddy of mine back home that tells me all the time I look like Nick Foligno. He goes, can I take a picture with you? Just said, this kid was from Columbus, Ohio, big Blue Jackets fan. Of course, Nick Foligno there a long time. And we take a picture together. And then at one point, you have to use the restroom, as one does. And right by the restroom was this guy and a bunch of his friends who I guess also work for Columbus, Ohio. And they looked at me and they were just like, Foligno! And I was like, my man. So, of course, I text Jim Jackson that immediately, and he just ha's back at me, But, that was great. The time of the family was great. The downtime was great. The gentleman, Jack Daniels, was extra kind to me. The multiple cigars, probably a bad idea considering I've been struggling with a weak voice over the last, 3 weeks. But either way. Oh, and I also enjoyed waking up every morning and watching the extended highlights of the Phillies, for the most part, handling their business over the weekend against the Arizona Diamondbacks there. I also got to enjoy about a 20-minute video that's out there on YouTube right now since the draft happened with the Eagles, with Howie Roseman trying to wheel and deal on draft day. And I got to tell you, for all the jokes that people make, myself included, as to when, a 215 or a 267, I don't know Howie Roseman's number, when it pops up on another GM cell phone, why do they take the call? Why do they take the call from Howie Roseman when he knows they're just going to fleece him? So if you watch this video of like I said, about 19 minutes of behind-the-scenes footage of Howie Roseman trying to wheel and deal at the draft, you might get that same vibe as well. Wow. These guys aren't taking Howie Roseman's calls. Now, they're taking his calls. However, they're not doing deals with him. And one of the interesting things about it is that even in the first round, the first spot that it looked like Howie Roseman was really trying to trade up and get was to 22. Now, it looks like the Eagles this entire time are trying to take Jahad Campbell and make sure they can get him on their defense in the upcoming season. But Howie Roseman is having no success in doing so. Every single team that he is taking or calling is saying, I got something better. Can you sweeten the pot a little bit? They call Washington. Washington says, there's an in-division tax if you want to make a trade to move up to our spot. Giants, same type of thing. So At one point during this whole process, Howie looks at Jeffrey Lurie, who is seated right next to him, and just says, I don't know what to tell you, Jeffrey. I'm trying. And Jeffrey's like, I know. And with all these failed attempts of Howie Roseman trying to move up and get the guy they want, he still is able to move up one spot thanks to the Kansas City Chiefs and still get the guy that they wanted, Jahad Campbell. Now, what I absolutely loved about this footage was that it really showed Howie Roseman behind the scenes, and you could tell there's a lot of nervous energy where he wants to do something, but he just can't do it, and he's trying to get the energy out somehow. So he is going around the room, fist bumping people, clapping his hands. Let's get the energy up, guys. Let's get it going. He's commenting on the photographer, the videographer that's on the floor, apparently kneeling in a suit. And there is two things that really jumped out to me. One was not a surprise at all. And this is not a slight. This is just how we know things to be working behind the scenes there with Howie Roseman and the Eagles. One is that Nick Sirianni is in the room. There appears to be no reason for Nick Sirianni to be in the room. And I know that sounds like a slight, but it's really not. Look, we know that Howie Roseman's running the things behind the scenes. Okay, we know that. But Nick's just there. He's just he's there to talk to the draft pick whenever the draft pick comes about and say, welcome to the Eagles, get ready to work, blah, 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 blah. Okay? The other thing, now, again, that's not the surprise. The other thing that I noticed is that throughout the first round, there is an NBA playoff basketball game on the TV in the draft room. Who the hell is watching an NBA playoff game that is in that room? If you are important enough to be in that room, if you are supposed to be in the room, I very much doubt Howie Roseman is ever going, hey, are the Thunder winning? Like, I doubt that is ever are the Clippers doing okay? I very much doubt. How many does Kawhi have? Like, I doubt that's the case. Just one of those things you would never expect in that scheme. Whatever. I would expect every TV to be on some kind of NFL draft coverage. So that's, and I will also point out that nobody is watching it. Like, everyone's back is to that TV, but it is what it is. I also really love the idea that after they finally get Jahad Campbell on their defense, Vic Fangio comes fee-fi-fo-fumming into the meeting room, and he has a look on his face like it is Christmas morning, and he's a toddler. He is just thrilled that Jahad Campbell is now going to be on his defense. You got to be thinking, when you have someone of that caliber, someone of that skill, someone who most people assumed was going to go in top 15, maybe at 17. No. Eagles had him on the top 10 on their board, and they got him at 31, having to trade a fifth-round pick, essentially, and swap in first-round picks with the Kansas City Chiefs. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. And I loved this video because although it's not going to show you everything, they want to keep some things close to the vest. What it did show you was how hard it is just to make a trade. And it showed you that after one failed attempt, Howie Roseman was like, all right, fine. One failed attempt, give me 7 failed attempts. It's the old Michael Jordan line. I can't go out there and I'm not afraid to go out there and fail, but I'm afraid to go out there and not try. That's how Howie Roseman. But what I'm telling you is Howie Roseman is Michael Jordan. No, but it also it just shows you the amount of work that's got to go into making this trade and any trade. And it's not just day 1; it's day 2, day 3. They're just trying to wheel and deal. One of my favorite parts of the whole video, if you haven't seen this yet, definitely it's worth the 15, 20 minutes, whatever. On the last day of the draft, where they're picking 4 through 7, Howie's like, this is the day. This is the day where if we could get 2 starters out of this, we could get 2 guys that could be big contributors on days like today. We're going to be talking about what we need. We're going to be talking about guys that have the tools to go out there and do what we need to do, both in a physical capacity and especially a mental capacity. And he goes around the room and he is just taking, hey, who do you want today? Who do you want to see wear an Eagles jersey, put on an Eagles hat by the end of the day today? And, obviously they're mentioning guys that that the Eagles drafted. It's not like they're talking about a guy they didn't get, but Drew Kendall gets talked about. Ty Robinson gets talked about. They talk about quarterbacks. They talk about Kyle McCord getting taken. They just go on down the list of guys that were taken by the Eagles in this draft. And it is awesome to hear everybody chime in that room. So I watched this whole thing. And then I see the news come out yesterday. I think it was Jeff McClain that had it first. And Jeff McClain wrote the story about a senior assistant, Anthony Patch, who has been with the team for 23 years. Took a unspecified senior position with the Vegas Raiders. So after 23 years with the Eagles, he moves on to take a role that is, again, unspecified, but is also a senior move. And Jeff McClain cites a source, an unnamed source, because Patch or the Eagles would not comment on the story. They just said that they were saddened to see him go, but understand that this is a promotion that is both professionally and personally worth the change for Anthony Patch. So, hey, I wish him well. When the Eagles have had people fly the nest, hasn't worked out well for those people. Joe Douglas in New York with the Jets didn't work out so great. Anthony Weidel didn't work out so well, or Andy Weidel, excuse me. And hey, look, this is a scouting director, a senior college scout that is no longer with the Eagles. I don't see this as even being a bump in the road. But Howie Roseman continues, and this Philadelphia Eagles team continues to be a bit of a kingmaker when it comes to getting credibility to anybody in a front office around the NFL that's looking to upgrade their personnel department, their player personnel department. So that's just another one to leave the nest. But after watching Howie Roseman talk to these rookies, and even watching a video of Jahad Campbell in his first 24 hours as an Eagle, as great as that was. Loved Jahad Campbell sitting on one of the buses there on his way to the NovaCare complex, and he was just crushing a bag of Doritos. And he goes, which was provided on the limo bus. I don't know. Is that what you call it? And it's been a minute since I've been on one. And he just goes, I'm just going to crush my Doritos. And he's looking around the bus. He's just like, man, I feel like the GM of the team right now. I was like, all right, fella, feel good for yourself there. And after watching that and more draft coverage, more highlights, and watching guys like Drew Makuba, watching guys like Ty Robinson, and they have rookie camp, and you're listening to these guys address the media about their first experience at the NovaCare complex as a professional athlete out of the college ranks now, and guys like McCord wearing his favorite team's jersey that he grew up cheering for, guys like Jahad Campbell wearing his favorite team's jersey that he grew up rooting for. You know, I'm in the part of the post-draft process where I am looking at upgrades and downgrades across the positions that the Eagles had positions of need going into this draft. And whether it's free agency, whether it's the draft itself, I am now trying to convince myself about upgrades and downgrades to these positions. And they range from A.J. Dillon being the backup running back to Saquon Barkley, to Drew Makuba being the heir apparent right now to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. That is, if Justin Simmons isn't getting acquired. So I'm going to go around some of these positions. And the big question mark, though, with all these is the tight end spot. So I'm going to start there. As of right now, there's no way that anyone can tell me that the Eagles are upgrading the tight end position. Like, I hope I'm surprised. I hope the Eagles are at least going to stay put at the spot they're at. Maybe there's a chance here that you see Dallas Goedert play a couple of more games as a Philadelphia Eagle before they trade him. Maybe this situation works out almost exactly like it worked out with Zach Ertz, where he still showed up when he was really supposed to show up. And then the Eagles, a couple of games into the season, ended up flipping him to the Arizona Cardinals. Maybe that same thing happens with Dallas Goedert. Maybe Dallas Goedert is going to play some games, even without signing that new contract, and everything will work out in the same way that it did with Zach Ertz. Maybe that happens. If you're Dallas Goedert, though, and you just saw George Kittle sign a nice, ginormous, biggest tight end deal ever, and you got to think, all right, well, I'm not going to get that, but maybe I can still get close to that, considering right now he's still only $4 million off of that, $5 million off of that with the Eagles. Maybe if he wants that contract extension, he ain't going to play. I mean, that's always an overriding factor in all of this. You want a bigger deal? You want a long-term contract? You're not going to risk injury. And if you're Dallas Goedert, the last thing you want to risk, considering your injury history, is injury, then maybe, just maybe, you ain't going to play. I hope he does. The Eagles are going to be a far better team with Dallas Goedert playing. I'd rather have Dallas Goedert catching footballs and being out there available to catch footballs than Grant Calcaterra. And I like Grant Calcaterra. I think a lot more than other people like Grant Calcaterra. But as of right now, I can't say that Dallas Goedert walks away from the Philadelphia Eagles and somehow the Philadelphia Eagles are better. Now, one thing that I've always defended on Dallas Goedert and his ability to play the tight end position has been his blocking ability. Eagles didn't miss a beat without Dallas Goedert last year. This offensive line was incredible last year. When Grant Calcaterra had to come in and block, Grant Calcaterra came in and blocked. Was he as good as Dallas Goedert? No, he wasn't. But with the way Saquon Barkley was slicing through this offensive line, and then immediately after that, opposing defensive lines, you couldn't tell me that, oh, this is a game they had Dallas Goedert in. Look how great he is. Nope, it's pretty much identical to the games Dallas Goedert wasn't in. Maybe they were running to the inside a little bit more so they didn't have to depend on that outside block being held as much as when Dallas Goedert was in games. But the proof is in the pudding. You were still pretty damn good. Well over 100 yards in those games for Saquon Barkley and the run game of the Philadelphia Eagles. So, although it's something that I always bang the drum for when it comes to Dallas Goedert and what he brings to the table, didn't really have much of an impact. When it came to the Eagles' ability to run the football and their success rate at running the football. So, one position that I'll look at and say, no way it's an upgrade is the tight end position, especially if the Eagles move on from Dallas Goedert, and what the Eagles have in the stable right now is what they're going to go with. Not too convinced that that's going to be an upgrade at the position. Go back to the running back position. Again, no doubt in my mind, A.J. Dillon is going to be an upgrade over Saquon Barkley. Over Kenny Gainwell in the backup position. I'll blame that on the gentleman jack that I was consumed over the last 3 days. Kenny Gainwell was great last year. He did set a high bar. He came in and with games or in a situation where Saquon Barkley needed that rest, he still came in. And I mentioned many times before, it was that Washington game where he just came off the bench and rattled off 3 runs of 10 yards or more in a 5-play series where he was out there. Just consistently helped this offense when he was called upon to do so. I don't care about the size of his quads. I care about the production he can give you. And I think he is absolutely an upgrade as far as what he brought to the table, what he can bring to the table for Saquon Barkley in the event that Saquon Barkley needs to get that rest on the sideline. The defensive tackle position. This is going to be a combination. It really does have to, it comes down to Moro Ojomo and how much of a step forward he can take this year. Because the Eagles love what they saw from him last year, had a good Super Bowl. He definitely showed progression. I made the joke last week that everyone now knows how to say Moro Ojomo, and Moro Ojomo is now on everybody's mind in Philadelphia. But then you also factor in the idea of using a pick on Ty Robinson and bringing him into the fray to take over for Milton Williams and what you could get out of Ty Robinson taking over for Milton Williams. Then you also factor in that anybody you put on that defensive line with Jalen Carter right now is going to look pretty good if they just simply cross their I's and dot their T's. Yeah, that's right. Do everything they possibly can. No matter how unconventional it might be, when you're next to Jalen Carter, it's going to look pretty good. So when I look at a guy like Ty Robinson, I look at the progression you could get from Moro Ojomo. Right now, is the proof in the pudding? No, absolutely not. But if there's a position, thanks to Jalen Carter and his ability, if there's a position that you're going to be able to grade on a Jalen Carter curve, it's obviously the defensive tackle position. And as I said many times, Milton Williams getting paid not just number one money. Milton Williams getting paid star money with the New England Patriots right now. He ain't worth that deal. He is not going to be worth that deal. Love the guy, wish him nothing but success, but if I'm trying to be objective, there's no way he is going to be worth that money. Again, not just number one money, but star money in New England. So if there's any position you can look at and say, oh, I could totally see this guy having success because of the company that's going to be surrounding him, it's going to be the defensive line. So when I look at Moro Ojomo, I look at Ty Robinson, I see those guys having huge impacts in the upcoming season simply because, look, you already have depth when you talk about Jordan Davis, different position than the other two when it comes to more of the nose tackle than the defensive tackle position. But you're also still playing next to JC there on the defensive line. The other thing here, so I look at, if not, I look on the fence, I say there is phenomenal potential for the upgrade there, but I'm not going to deem it that just yet. When I look at the linebacker position, whether you're talking about edge or you're talking about guys that will be off-ball guys, I'm looking at Jahad Campbell to earn that look of excitement that I referenced earlier from Vic Fangio. When he came into that room, excited as all get out that they actually got Jahad Campbell because these guys are talking all the time. And it's not like they win the Super Bowl and then they're just like, all right, see you at training camp. Vic Fangio, I'm sure, throughout the entire process, if you're going to have a defensive player like that in your top 10 and you're still eyeing him at 31 and you're eyeing him throughout, the final 12 picks of the first round, Vic Fangio's got to be thinking, could it happen? Could I actually get this guy? Could this actually happen? Could we get the diamond in the rough that Zach Bond was last year and Defensive Player of the Year? Could we get a healthy Nakobe Dean back? Could we get Jahad Campbell into this mix? This is going to be incredible if we're able to pull this off. And then it happens. Versatility, being able to be in coverage, being able to drop back, being able to attack at the line of scrimmage. Whether or not he's healthy, Howie Roseman was on with Rich Eisen last week and was like, I can't talk to you about the number of doctors that we spoke to, the amount of conversations we had with John Cam about how he feels. Everything's fine. We're feeling pretty damn good about everything. We're going to roll the dice here. And, roll the dice. Other teams seem to be pretty afraid of drafting him. And then I go back to people being afraid of drafting Nakobe Dean when he was healthy last year. Up until he wasn't, he showed that, he can take major steps forward in terms of his own improvement. You talk about Nolan Smith coming out of Georgia with his problems in his shoulder. That went away last year. Talk about all the guys you're looking forward to seeing take that next step forward. I mentioned on the defensive line, Moro Ojomo. I can look at the same type of thing with Nolan Smith, who since the bye week last year was one of the best pass rushers in the NFL at pass rush win rate. Love saying that. And I also look at the addition of Jahad Campbell, more progression, obviously, from Jalix Hunt and what he could bring to the table. And you're talking about really replacing the production of a guy like Josh Sweat, who, yes, I agree, had a wonderful Super Bowl. But I feel for a 17-game season, the Eagles could do better than Josh Sweat. Look, the Eagles lost a lot of talent on the defensive side of things. I think they actually did a wonderful job of replacing. If you're not a big Jahad Campbell guy, maybe you're going to be a big Azeez Ojulari fan. If you're not a big Jalix Hunt fan, maybe you'll be a big Josh Uche fan. The Eagles are talking about depth. They have an immense, an embarrassment of riches when it comes to depth on the defensive line and now in their edge or linebacking core. I feel fantastic about that. When it comes to the secondary, I think, well, look, whatever, if you wanted Darius Slay re-signed, and I've made this point many times, I feel Adoree Jackson is going to give you whatever Darius Slay was going to give you in the upcoming season. I think Darius Slay is done. I think you have, in terms of production you'd get for this upcoming season, I did not have a lot of confidence in Darius Slay being out there for the majority of the season. It happens to everybody. Nobody can escape Father Time. I don't see Darius Slay escaping Father Time. Look, I give him a lot more credit than most people do for the way he played last year. But it was like every other time you looked at him, it was, oh, man, the knees bothered him again. The groins injury bothered him again. And when the playoffs came, it certainly looked like he was saving himself for the postseason because he unleashed fury in that regard. So what I saw from him there was great. But when it comes to the defensive back position, you talk about more steps forward for guys that played great last year in Cooper DeJean and Quentin Mitchell. Now you also talk about Keely Ringo battling for that starting spot, along with Adoree Jackson, what they could bring to the table there. Whether or not any of the corners that you drafted could come in and give you some sustenance would be great. But I feel like it's a flatline spot to talk about the cornerback position opposite Quentin Mitchell. When it comes to the safety position, this is, again, a spot that, similar to tight end, there's no way you could tell me right now that Drew Makuba is going to give you more than what Chauncey Gardner-Johnson got you. Look, I know what the scouting reports say. I know he's met Brian Dawkins, which we all love. I know he roomed with Jeremiah Trotter Jr. at Clemson. Like, all that's great. And when you saw him raise his game, changing schools, that's a phenomenal thing. It's a similar thing you see from Kyle McCord. If you're going to change schools, then you better do it and become a stud. He was a stud, stayed a stud. So when I look at a player like him, I'm excited. All the things he can bring to the table, I'm rooting for it right now. But to ask a rookie to give you what a guy gave you who helped you get to a Super Bowl and win another Super Bowl is a bit of a tall order. Is the versatility there? Is the ability there? Is the potential there? It's certainly there. But when you talk about upgrading positions, clear-cut upgrades, I don't see it. Maybe in a couple of years I see it, but that's not what I'm after. I'm after another Super Bowl. And I know you can't look at a team and say every single year you're going to win a Super Bowl, and that's just unfair to any squad. I get that. But what was a tough pill to swallow when the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson move was made remains a tough pill to swallow. Hold on a second. I understand. And if it's true that the reason they did it was because they got to pay other young guys, okay, fine. But I saw what this defense was with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, and they moved on from him. And then I saw what the defense wasn't. And then they get him back, and I see what the defense is again. And I go, this is pretty great. I love what I'm seeing. And then they let him go again, and you go, feels like we've been on this ride before, and it didn't end well. So there's nothing you could say, show me, to convince me that this is any form of an upgrade. And yes, I still think Justin Simmons is becoming a Philadelphia Eagle. So as of right now, I look at these spots, and I can be convinced at the defensive tackle position that you've upgraded. I can be convinced that the edge rusher position you've upgraded, linebacker positions you've upgraded. I can't be there when it comes to safety, when it comes to tight end, whether or not you have Dallas Goedert. I can't be there. When it comes to the backup running back spot, I can be convinced that you've upgraded from the job that Kenny Gainwell did. And Kenny Gainwell was phenomenal last year. But I do think A.J. Dillon gives you a little bit more in that spot. So I absolutely love that. I'm looking at this offseason with the Eagles, and it's hard to say that when you lose guys on that defense like Josh Sweat, like Milton Williams, like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, like Darius Slay, and all the things that they brought you last year, it's hard to look at a defense like that and say, oh, you got better. Right now, you can't be convinced that they got better. But when it comes to certain positions, when you break it down to the individual spots like defensive tackle or linebacker and edge rusher, I could be sold. I could be sold very quickly that the Eagles have taken a couple of steps forward in that direction. And also, let's not forget, when you talk about edge rushers, I don't want to push aside because the Eagles had, I believe, a good draft. I can't rule out the idea because of depth and what they brought in defensively, that when it comes to the edge rushers, defensive line, linebackers, that they have taken a step forward in that direction. So that's what I look forward to seeing the most. And also, I don't want to leave out. Now, I've heard Smile and I've heard Smile Mondon. Another guy the Eagles are very excited that they got, and they got him in the 5th round. I heard him speak over the weekend, saying all the right things, just how hungry he is to go out there and be a professional. I think he said that the first person that reached out to him was Nakobe Dean. So that's great. Just that Georgia line, quite literal. Georgia to Broad Street line, I guess you could call it. It's a great thing. And you talk about guys being nervous maybe in the first couple of days as a pro, to know that you already have a blessing, acceptance, and the olive branch already extended to you because the guys you already know at the NovaCare complex, that's only going to help things be a smooth transition. Before I go any further here, last thing, with the Eagles. One of the snippets, if you will, from Jihad Campbell's first day as an Eagle. They walk him into the NovaCare complex. This is one of the coolest things. They walk him into the NovaCare complex, and imagine you're you, okay? You're younger you, where you're just getting into football, you're becoming a fan, and you love the Eagles, and this is just, I love this. It's so great. And then you start realizing, maybe I could play in college. Maybe I could play in college. Maybe I could play in college. Then you play in college. You're great in college. And then you get declared for the NFL draft. And then you go to the combine. And then there's a rumor that your favorite team, the Philadelphia Eagles, drafted you. And then they draft you. And then not only do they draft you, but you get to the NovaCare complex and you're walking around all these what should I call I don't know. Just you're walking around the halls of the NovaCare complex with all the pictures of NFC Championship appearances, NFC Championship wins, Super Bowl wins, the history of the franchise, and now you're walking among them. That's a feeling that I'd wish on my best friend. You know what I mean? That's got to be absolutely incredible. And Jihad Campbell got to do that. Kyle McCord got to do that over the weekend. Oh, and then they got to work. Jalen Hurts, when he wasn't at the Met Gala. How about that? That's stealing headlines. Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, Met Gala. Hey, they look like $1 million damn dollars. That's my quarterback. That's my running back, man. But Jalen Hurts reaching out to Kyle McCord, basically saying, let's get to work. Like that's everything you want in a leader, obviously. Everything you want in a leader. So I absolutely love this, and I'm just selling myself more and more on this draft. Absolutely. Hey, Philadelphia Phillies took 2 or 3 from the Arizona Diamondbacks while I was away. And as I said, every morning I woke up, made myself a coffee. That's right, I drank coffee. No, I had a little travel espresso pump, and I went down to the Dewey Beach with it, and I packed it both times. Don't know what happened to it. It's crushing. So I actually had to drink coffee. So I said I was drinking my coffee, and I was watching the highlights of the Phillies, and I was watching Aaron Nola just deal. What did I say? What did I say about Aaron Nola, folks? You put JT Realmuto behind the plate for him. It's been a much different pitcher. Since JT Realmuto's been behind the plate for him, he's had his 3 best starts of the season. Oh, and how about this? 6 scoreless against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Gets his first win of the season. You love to see it for old Knowles. That was great to see. Jesus Luzardo, Friday night. 5 1/3, I believe he got. Didn't get the win. But Kyle Schwarber, Max Kepler, a couple of dingers to secure a Phillies victory. You love to see it. Kyle Schwarber had himself a nice weekend. And then, of course, Phillies couldn't complete the sweep of the Diamondbacks. Jose Alvarado, despite some comeback attempts there by the Phillies. Jose Alvarado, not so great to finish things up for the Phillies in that one. Despite having a good weekend overall, didn't work out so well that time around. But Phillies got me excited, man. Phillies got me excited. I'm really trying hard not to pay attention to any standings right now when it comes to the Phillies. But it is May, and I'm just trying to watch the Phillies play as best baseball as they possibly can. They're about to start a 6-game road trip. 3 games in Tampa, 3 games in Cleveland. Wheeler gets to start against Rasmussen tonight. 7:05 start time. They got 3 7:05 start times, then 7:10, 6:10, and 7 o'clock in Cleveland before coming back home for a 6-game home stand against St. Louis and Pittsburgh. Can we get the Phillies to rack up some wins? I would really absolutely love to see the Phillies go out there and just start rolling offensively. I know they lost in extras Sunday, 11-9, and that game was a wild one, certainly. But I'd love to see the Phillies come out here and just go on a nice roll. Go on a post-rookie camp roll, if there's such a thing. One thing I've decided here. Johan Rojas is a very frustrating player to watch. And I know he had the dumb play where he took third for a triple when it didn't matter. I know he's had dumb plays where he's misjudged line drives hit at him. I know he's had dumb plays where he misjudged fly balls hit over his head in center field. Like the name that I compared him to over the weekend when I was talking Phillies with some people that aren't Phillies fans is like, or they, you know who they were? They were Nationals fans. And I was like, hey, remember Ben Revere? He played for both teams, the Phillies and the Nationals, right? I said, remember Ben Revere? Ben Revere had the IQ of like rocks. Okay. He had the baseball IQ of rocks. Johan Rojas, as a young player, who I believe the Phillies have really just pushed aside. Look, congratulations to Brandon Marsh on coming up with a couple of big hits over the weekend. Johan Rojas is my center fielder. I'd love to see him work out all the kinks. And you heard over the weekend, Kyle Schwarber basically give him a ringing endorsement as to saying without saying that he's the starting center fielder. Like the plays he can make in center field and what he's actually been able to bring the Phillies at the plate is worth letting him work out the kinks as a younger ball player. Like, welcome back, Brandon Marsh, man. Welcome back. But I in no way, shape, or form I'm going to be banging a drum for Brandon Marsh to get anything going for the Phils when I want to see that happen more so with a guy like Johan Rojas. And yes, it's going to be frustrating, but we're watching the growing pains. We talk about it a lot. John McMullen coming up on Birds 365, as a matter of fact, on Jacob Media. He's put it out there many times about how Jim Schwartz used to talk about the upstart curve, getting guys going on an upstart curve. That's what you got to do in every sport. And Johan Rojas, to me, is going to be worth that investment. Is it going to be pretty? No. Are there going to be points of frustration? Absolutely. But I'd rather see him go out there and work all that out now as opposed to continuing to watch Brandon Marsh struggle. Will I look at Brandon Marsh as a viable option? Yes. But I also think the Phillies could have another trade on their hands when it comes to freeing up that spot. In terms of who could be your backup center fielder, because right now I see that as being Johan Rojas and only Johan Rojas. I will find it interesting what the Phillies do with Otto Kemp. Now, if you haven't been following this story, Otto Kemp just won the minor league player of the month for the month of April for what he brought to the table for the Phillies. 10 home runs. He's tied for the most home runs, the AAA level. He's been getting on base at a tremendous clip. He's been hitting for average, which is something the Phillies don't value enough at the minor league level, if you ask moi. But he has been 100% absolutely getting after it at the minor league level. I thought I had his numbers here. I do not have his numbers here. I will get his numbers for you, though. But he has just been incredible. Now, unfortunately, he is not on the 40-man roster, so it's going to take some work to get him if he's ever going to help the big league level. He's 25 years old, turns 26 in September. And what he's been able to do for Lehigh Valley this year, 344 on batting average, 433 on base percentage, the 10 home runs I mentioned, 35 RBIs. The man's been getting it done, folks. The man has been getting it done. Plays in the outfield. He's played limited third base, to say the absolute least. If you want to thinking about him as a third baseman, should be limited in the outfield this year. Played 18 games at third base this year for the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs. So has played a good amount of his career at second base, mostly a third baseman in the minors. That's where he's playing this year at Lehigh Valley. So for the people that are itching to get rid of Alec Boehm, I wouldn't exactly invest just yet in the Otto Kemp deal, but hell of a run that he's putting together so far at Lehigh Valley. Hell of a run. As I mentioned, Phillies are back at it tonight, 7:05 start time against the Tampa Bay Rays. Before I get into the chat check, ladies and gentlemen, Philadelphia Flyers got screwed yesterday. Screwed. Fourth worst record in the NHL last year. In the lottery yesterday, they drew the 6th overall pick. Not the top pick, not the second, not the third, not the fourth, not the fifth, the 6th. The 6th overall pick. You know, people say I'm crazy for many reasons, but mainly because I still feel the Flyers are paying for the sins of the 70s in the NHL world. And that's where karma, undeserved karma, comes back to bite them in the old behind. Now, they still have 7 picks in the top 48 of the next month's NHL draft, June 27th. But this one stings because things fell into place for the Flyers last year. Also, Matvei Mishkov, not even a runner-up, not even a finalist for Rookie of the Year. Bull, again, paying for the sins of the 70s. Not a great weekend for the Philadelphia Flyers. Not a great weekend. Screwed. 4th worst record, 6th overall pick. Makes no sense. All right. Let me tell you about the Game Time app. Want to go to the game? Want to go to the concert? Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code FARZY, and get $20 off your first purchase. That's the Game Time app. Game, concert, comedy show, Game Time app has you covered. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code FARZY, get $20 off your first purchase. How about PHL Sports Nation, Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs. That's phlsportsnation.com. Let's get to the chat check. How I have missed you guys. How I have missed you. Wine Niners Wine, good morning. Sean Gillespie, hello. Sean Kilbrain, what's popping? Wait a minute. Yikes, says Sean Kilbrain. Tyreek Hill names his top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield, Joe Burrow, and Tua not mentioned. Oh, Tua was not named. I don't put too much stock into Tyreek Hill. Just gonna go with it like that. Jason A, hello. Danny Prado, hello. Jeremy Von Skyver, hello. Good to be back. I was at. Was Saturday night. I'm watching. They had the Phillies on like a quad screen at the bar I was at, and same bar where the guys told me, "Are you Nick Foligno?" And I could see the Phillies were on, and I was like, "Ooh, I get to watch Nola." And I'm watching Nola. Deal, knuckle curve, phenomenal. Velocity on the sinker, 94 miles per hour. Chef's kiss, looking good. Loved every minute of it. William Stark, hello, good morning. Danny Prado, welcome back. Missed you too. Jason A, in my own opinion, as you get older, you always wonder about the younger generation. Totally agree with you. And I'm like, am I there is no generation. Like older generation, younger generation. There is no 2 generations that ever looked at like each other like, oh, those are the badasses. Maybe the World War I generation and the World War II generation. Maybe that's the only one Where originally, but I'm telling you right now, originally the World War I generation was probably looking at the greatest generation going, come on, toughen up. And then the World War II broke out, they won, and then they came back and like, okay, I guess we toughen up a little bit. But that's it. That's the only generation probably. So I'm looking at my generation now, looking down, I'm as my generation looking down at the college kids now. First off, I'm like, are they too easily offended? Are they too soft? Is the world becoming too soft? And I'm like, are these all questions that like my dad was asking when I was like, not about me necessarily, but about the generation? And I'm like, probably. So in that perspective, I try not to let it bother me too much. But I will say, it is nice when younger members of the younger generation show immense respect, immense gratitude, kindness, appreciation, like I experienced over this weekend. It's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. If you missed it, if you're just joining me now, my nephew's in a frat down in Knoxville, and he had like 15 of his frat buddies over the Airbnb we got, and I made dinner Friday night, made meatballs and whole spread, made crostini, a nice like tuna crostini. Okay. And they could not have been more appreciative, more kind. It was awesome. It was just so not that I was doing it for that, obviously, but just, hey, this is an experience you guys probably not going to get, so I'll provide it, And I love to do it anyway, so it was no hardship by any means. And it was great. And I went to this great butcher shop. Shout out to Jesse's Butchers, Jesse's Butcher down in Knoxville, Tennessee. I was able to get the veal, pork, and beef and the meatballs. It was fantastic. But yeah, good times. Sean Gillespie, hello. Someone in the draft room is a sad Lakers fan. I don't know what an NBA game was doing on in the draft room, but it was on. Phillies are the only team in Major League Baseball that hasn't had a player make their MLB debut this season. Interesting. Is this for Otto Kemp? What a great name, by the way. I feel like Otto Kemp is the name that should be on like the 1918 Eagles team, or 1980 Phillies roster. And Otto Kemp came up to the plate. Such an old school name. Crazy. I hate Gary Bettman. We all hate Gary Bettman. Let's not forget that before it was cool to boo the commissioner, Gary Bettman is the OG boo of commissioners. Gary Bettman is the guy that took that on the chin the first time. And then I think it was his boy, Daniel Stern. And then, or David Stern, excuse me, Daniel Stern. And then, obviously, Roger Goodell, Bud Selig, Rob Manfred. Now it's just trendy. But from what my memory serves me correctly, Bettman was the OG boo. Sean Gillespie, Vegas trying to get Howie's secrets and getting Anthony Patch. I agree with you. I agree with you. April. Good morning, April. Hello. Jason A. Calcaterra blocking was horrendous. As a pass catcher, he's great. Okay. But he's not a complete tight end. I agree. Goddard, when healthy, is a top 5 tight end. I totally agree with that. Here's the deal. Okay, I'll go with you there. I'll live in a world where, yeah, Grant Calcaterra needs to work on his blocking. But the bigger point, I feel, is that even with him being a horrendous blocker, the running game did not miss a beat. Like, they still crushed in that regard. But the bottom line is also you want to be able to protect your quarterback, too, from anybody coming over the edge. You want your tight end to be able to help do that. Never played a full season. I agree. The mommy. Hello. Good morning, Farzi. Go Phils and Birds Nation. There you go. Pin 9617. Good morning. Hello. JB, I think everyone forgets that Ringo is still only 22. Love to see him take a nice leap forward, as would I. If I'm rooting for anyone to get that outside corner spot, it's Keely Ringo. Sean Gillespie, yeah, CJ, GJ still hurts. It absolutely still hurts. Smile, London, I'll say. Looks great. I'm so excited for this draft class. Yeah, I'm talking myself into a lot of stuff right now. But I think some of that's warranted. Sean Kilmer, Ty Robinson is my guy, that he's going to be the next Carter. And Mike, Oh, and Mike linebacker, you mean? In a Jomo. Oh, Sean Kilrain, you put up the numbers for Otto Kemp. International Player of the Month for April. Stats are off the charts. Startup costs. That's what it was. Startup costs. Thank you, Jason. Sean Kilrain, bring up Otto Kemp. You agree? I do agree. I'd love to see it happen, but he's got to play every day. He's got to play every day. Like, I don't like taking guys out of the minors and just being like, all right, well, now you're a bench guy. No. He's got to play every day. Certainly glad that they sent Cal Stevenson back down and talk about ultimate brain farts. I forget if it was Friday or Saturday, whenever it was. But yeah, watching him, like, dude, gets picked off, messes up in the field, gets turned around something terrible. What is it you say you do here? And the Phillies obviously had that same thought. Jason A. It's like starting a business. You're under at first, but once it gets going, it'll be well worth it. Same thing with Rojas. I agree. I'm the same boat. By the way, it's Jeremy Van Sciver that made the point about Cal Stevenson. Sean Kilmer and Ty Robinson going to do big things, in my opinion, Farzy. I'm with you. The mommy, Broad Street Bullies, baby. As much as I love them, I know they still have a lot of people that hate them for beating their asses in the 70s. Philly Magic 365. I want Simmons to bridge this year. Oh, bridge the year, teach Makuba and Reed how to really play Fangio's system. I would love to see that happen, and I still think it's going to happen. Why Niners why? And that's why I'm wearing my Flyers polo at work today. I believe in Danny, but he needs to learn some Howie magic. I concur. Buddy Christ. Hello, Buddy Christ. Good morning. Good morning. Nice to see you. Let's get to the morning rush brought to you by Sky Motor Cars, SkyMotorCars.com. As I mentioned, your Philadelphia Phillies are back at it tonight, 7:05. You're going to get Zach Wheeler on the bump tonight. Phillies will look to start another series that they'll win. Keep stacking series wins. That's all we can be concerned about, right? That's all I want to see from your Philadelphia Phillies. Stacking series wins. There was one more thing I had date-wise for you guys in case you didn't have that yet. Is this it? That's not it. That's not it either. Okay. All right. May 27th to the 28th, May 30th, June 2nd to the 3rd, OTAs, official offseason workouts. June 10th, mandatory minicamp for the Eagles. And May 14th, the schedule is going to be released. Once again, Phillies, Drew Rasmussen's going to go, the veteran right-handed pitcher of the Tampa Bay Rays. He's going to go against Zach Wheeler tonight. So we can look forward to that. He enters this game 1-2 with a 2.64 ERA. That's the way that one breaks down. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hey, more of me today. We're going to do another Locked On Eagles Squad podcast today. Jason Martinez, Harry Mays. We're also going to have Louis DiBiase joining us today from Locked On Eagles YouTube channel. Make sure you guys watch us on Locked On Eagles YouTube channel as well. We'll get that started at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Great to be back with you guys. Look forward to talking to you again today for Eagles Squad, Locked On Eagles Squad podcast at 1 o'clock today. Also, I'll be back with you guys tonight on Locked On Phillies YouTube channel for your Locked On Phillies postcast. Look forward to that. So a 3-show day from me to you today. I look forward to that. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Back with you guys tomorrow. See you then.